Now this man has been sufficiently punished, for you have taken everything. Now you can release him. He does not deserve to be punished more. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When Lord Brahma saw that Prahlada Maharaj and Vindhyavali had already approached the Lord to ask mercy for Bali Maharaja, he joined them and recommended Bali Maharaja's release on the grounds of worldly calculations. Worldly calculations, okay? Not spiritual calculations. Text 22. Bali Maharaja had already offered everything to your lordship without hesitation. He has offered his land, the planets, and whatever else he earned by his pious activities, including even his own body. Text 23. By offering even water, newly grown grass, or flower buds at your lotus feet, those who maintain no mental duplicity can achieve the most exalted position within the spiritual world. This Bali Maharaj, without duplicity, has now offered everything in the three worlds. How can he deserve to suffer from arrest? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita 9.26, it is stated, Patram Pushpam Phalam Troyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhakti Bharatam Asnami Manaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is so kind that if an unsophisticated person with devotion and without duplicity offers at the lotus feet of the Lord a little water, a flower, a fruit, or leaf, the Lord accepts it. Then the devotee is promoted to Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. Brahma drew the Lord's attention to this subject and requested that he release Bali Maharaja, who was suffering, being bound by the ropes of the Varuna, and who had already given everything, including the three worlds, and whatever he possessed. Text 24. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Lord Brahma, because of material opulence, a foolish person becomes dull-witted and mad and crazy. Thus, he has no respect for anyone within the three worlds and defies even my authority. To such a person, I show special favor by first taking away all his possessions. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A civilization that has become godless because of material advancement in opulence is extremely dangerous. Because of great opulence, a materialist becomes so proud that he has no regard for anyone and even refuses to accept the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's really bad. The result of such a mentality is certainly very dangerous. To show special favor, the Lord sometimes makes an example of someone like Bali Maharaja, who was now bereft of all his possessions. Text 25. While rotating in the cycle of birth and death again and again in different species, because of his own fruitive activities, the dependent living entity, by good fortune, may happen to become a human being. This human birth is very rarely obtained. It's true. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fully dependent. Is fully independent. Thus, it is not always a fact that a living being's loss of all opulence is a sign of the Supreme Lord's mercy upon him. The Lord can act any way he likes. He may take away one's opulence, or he may not. There are varieties of forms of life, and the Lord treats them according to the circumstances as he chooses. Generally, it is to be understood that the human form of life is one of great responsibility. But that's fact. Purusha prakritisto hi, bhute pakrityan gunam, karanam gunasangasya sadasad yoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil amongst various species. Bhagavad Gita 13.22. After thus rotating through many, many forms of life in the cycle of birth and death, the living being gets a chance for a human form. Therefore, every human being, especially one belonging to a civilized nation or culture, must be extremely responsible in his activities. He should not risk degradation in the next life, because the body will change. Tata dehantara praptir. We should be extremely careful to see to the proper use of life is the purpose of Krishna consciousness. The foolish living entity declares freedom from all control, but factually, he is not free. He is fully under the control of material nature. He must, therefore, be most careful and responsible in the activities of his life. Yeah, that's right. We have to be very careful. Text number 26. If a human being is born in an aristocratic family or a higher status of life, if he performs wonderful activities, if he is youthful, if he has had, if he has personal beauty, a good education, and good wealth, and if he is nonetheless not proud of his opulence, it is to be understood that he is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: by his divine grace, is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When, in spite of possessing all these opulences, a person is not proud, this means that he is fully aware that all his opulences are due to the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He therefore engages all his possession in the service of the Lord. A devotee knows very well that everything, even his body, belongs to the Supreme Lord. If one lives perfectly in such Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that he is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conclusion is that one's being deprived of his wealth is not to be considered the special mercy of the Lord. Let me read that again. The conclusion is that one's being deprived of his wealth is not to be considered the special mercy of the Lord. If one continues in his opulent position, but does not become unnecessarily proud, falsely thinking that he is the proprietor of everything, this is the Lord's special mercy. Okay. All right. So one can continue with opulence because you're using the opulence in the service of the Lord. Text 27. Although aristocratic birth and other such opulences are impediments to advancement in devotional service because they are causes of false prestige and pride, these opulences never disturb a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There it is. One can continue to have opulence if it's used in the service of God. Yeah. Purport. Devotees like Dhruva Maharaj, who was given unlimited material opulence, have the special mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Once Kuvera wanted to give Dhruva Maharaj a benediction, but although Dhruva Maharaja could have asked him for any amount of material opulence, he instead begged Kuvera that he might continue his devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a devotee is fixed in his devotional service, there is no need for the Lord to deprive him of his material opulence. There it is. Nice statement. If you're using all your opulence in the service of the Lord, there's no need to give it up. There is no need for the Lord to deprive him of his material opulences. The Supreme Personality of Godhead never takes away material opulences achieved because of devotional service. Although he sometimes takes away opulences achieved by pious activities, he does this to make a devotee brideless or put him in a better position in devotional service. If a special devotee is meant for preaching, but does not give up his family life or material opulences to take to the service of the Lord surely takes away his material opulences and establishes him in devotional service. Thus, the pure devotee becomes fully engaged in propagating Krishna consciousness. And even Prabhupada has spoken about this. He was a little bit hesitant of giving up his family and everything, but he understood that it was necessary. He didn't like it, but it was necessary. So he did whatever Krishna wanted him to do. Text 28. Bali Maharaj has become the most famous among the demons and non-believers, for in spite of being bereft of all material opulences, he is fixed in his devotional service. In this verse, the words Siddham api na muyate are very important. A devotee is sometimes put into the adversity while executing devotional service. Okay, sometimes it says. In adversity, everyone laments and becomes aggrieved. But by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a devotee, even in the worst condition, can understand that he is going through a severe examination by the personality of Godhead. Bali Maharaj passed all such examinations, as explained in the following verses. Yeah, okay. We're all going to be tested to see if we're genuinely engaged in devotional service or we're just faking it. Text 29 to 30. Although bereft of his riches, fallen from his original position, defeated and arrested by his enemies, rebuked and deserted by his relatives and friends, although suffering the pain of being bound, and although rebuked and cursed by his spiritual master, Wali Maharaja, being fixed in his vow, did not give up his truthfulness. It was certainly with pretension that I spoke about religious principles, but he did not give up religious principles, for he is true to his word. Wow. And Holy Maharaj is going through a severe test. Purport. Bali Maharaja passed the severe, there it is, the severe test put before him by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, my dear devotees, we should understand that we will all be tested to see if we are sincere in our devotional life. This is further proof of the Lord's mercy towards his devotee. Yeah, the severe test is further proof of the Lord's mercy towards his devotee. The Supreme Personality of Godhead sometimes puts a devotee to severe tests that are almost unbearable. One could hardly even live under the conditions forced upon Bali Maharaj. That Bali Maharaj endured all severe tests and austerities is the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord certainly appreciates the devotee's forbearance, and it is recorded for the future glorification of the devotee. This was not an ordinary test, as described in this verse. Hardly anyone could survive such a test. But for the future glorification of Bali Maharaja, one of the Mahajanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only tested him, but also gave him the strength to tolerate such adversity. The Lord is so kind to his devotee that when severely testing him, the Lord gives him the necessary strength to be tolerant and continue to remain a glorious devotee. Yeah, well, we're all going to be tested. And if we are able to take full shelter under the Lord, and remain steady in our devotional service, no matter what happens, we pass the test. That's 31. Yeah.
One question, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, for a neophyte devotee, how we will see whether it's a test or it's a like a reaction of past karma?
That's a good question. Well, a test means that you are put in a very difficult situation. to see if you are actually sincerely engaged in service. So there are different types of tests, but the devotee understands that he's being tested. Therefore, he doesn't uh, buckle. He doesn't lose his enthusiasm for Krishna consciousness. He remains steady in his service. Now, in the material world, nothing is eternal. Everything is temporary. When I say everything is temporary, a test cannot go on eternally. It's going to be eventually over. Therefore, devotees understand that, and they're not disturbed by these tests. They simply continue doing their service. So that's why it says here, Bali Maharaj passed the severe test put before him by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is further proof of the Lord's mercy towards the devotee. The Supreme Personality of Godhead sometimes puts a devotee to severe tests that are almost unbearable. One could hardly even live under the conditions forced upon Bali Maharaj. That Bali Maharaj endured all these severe tests and austerities is the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Yeah, that's the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord certainly appreciates the devotee's forbearance. That means the ability the devotee has of passing the test of difficult times and losing prestige, losing their house and losing their, say, you know, uh, opulences, things like that. These are tests given to by given to the devotee to see if the devotee is actually serious about following Krishna consciousness. Therefore, it says here, this was not an ordinary test. As described in this verse, hardly anyone could survive such a test. But for the future glorification of Bali Maharaj, one of the Mahajanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead not only tested him, but also gave him the strength to tolerate such adversity. The Lord is so kind to his devotee that when severely testing him, the Lord gives him the necessary strength to be tolerant and continue to remain a glorious devotee. There it is. So Krishna gives the devotee uh, the strength to tolerate such adversity. Text 31. The Lord continued, because of his great tolerance, I have given him a place not obtainable even by the demigods. He will become king of the heavenly planets during the period of the Manu known as Savarni. Okay. Purport. This is the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even if the Lord takes away a devotee's material opulence, the Lord immediately offers him a position of which the demigods cannot even dream. There are many examples of this in the history of devotional service. One of them is the opulence of Sudama Vipra. Sudama Vipra suffered severe material scarcity, but he was not disturbed and did not deviate from devotional service. Thus, he was ultimately given an exalted position by the mercy of Lord Krishna. Here, the word Mad Ashraya is very significant because the Lord wanted to give Bali Maharaja the exalted position of Indra. The demigods might naturally have been envious of him and might have fought to disturb his position. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead assured Bali Maharaja that he would always remain under the Lord's protection. Mad Ashraya. Yeah. Koteya Pratijanihi. Name Bhakta Parasa. Declare boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee will never perish. We have to believe that and not be, let's say, discouraged at any point because uh, Krishna is going to protect us. That is the most important test that we do not lose our determination because there are difficult times. We should see that it's a test that Krishna is giving us. And we can pass the test by remaining steady in devotional service, not giving up, becoming afraid, not, uh, you know, getting angry. Sometimes people get angry because of bad situations, and they sort of curse Krishna. No, one always remains completely dedicated to serving Krishna with love and devotion, no matter what the situation is. Okay, text 32. Until Bali Maharaja achieves the position of King of Heaven, he shall live on the planet Sutala, which was made by Vishwakarma according to my order. Because it is especially protected by me, it is free from mental and bodily miseries, fatigue, dizziness, defeat, and all other disturbances. Bali Maharaja, you may now go live there peacefully. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vishwakarma is the engineer or architect of the palatial buildings in the heavenly planets. Therefore, since he was engaged to construct the residential quarters of Bali Maharaja, the buildings and palaces on the planet Sutala must at least equal those on the heavenly planets. A further advantage of this place, designed for Bali Maharaj, was that he would not be disturbed by any outward calamity. Well, that's a blessing. Moreover, he would not be disturbed by mental or bodily miseries. These are all extraordinary features of the planet Sutala, where Bali Maharaja would live. In the Vedic literatures, we find descriptions of many different planets where there are many palaces, hundreds and thousands of times better than those of which we have experience on this planet Earth. When we speak of palaces, this naturally includes the idea of great cities and towns. Unfortunately, when modern scientists try to explore other planets, they see nothing but rocks and sand. Yeah, because they're not devotees. Of course, they may go on their frivolous excursions, but the students of the Vedic literature will never believe them or give them any credit for exploring other planets. Yeah, that's see now that's very important. You know, look at what they've done. You know, they do this. Uh, they have rockets, and they try to go to the moon. All of that has never been successful. It's always been defeated, not defeated, but always been failures. Why? Because you can't just go to the moon with some material contraption. And, you have to be able to uh, pass the test of your uh, sincerity to be able to go to the moon. The moon is inhabited by very powerful living entities. They're not going to let you go there without their permission. This is what people don't understand. You know, there are living entities on every planet. And the moon is not a place where there's nobody. Obviously, there's very uh, many living entities on the moon, and they are superior to the people on the Earth. So now we might not be able to see them, but that is our problem. It's not their problem.
They can save a lot of money, Maharaj, if they will have a faith in these statements.
Yeah,
They're investing so much on those
yeah.
explorations.
See, they've been doing this Earth this uh, uh, exploration or this ability to go to other planets for a long time. It's all been a failure. And whatever they try, uh, they don't really go there. Something always goes wrong, and then they stop trying to go because they're spending so much money to try and go to these planets, and it keeps failing. So eventually they just stop. Are they going to the moon right now? You know, but years ago, many years, like 60, 80, 70 years ago, they were saying we're going to have regular rockets going to the moon, and you can go there, and all of that is nonsense. It never happened. They thought it was going to happen, but they didn't. And after spending so much money and effort, they just gave up. They said, "Well, there's no water on the moon. We'll go to Mars now." They didn't go to Mars, and then they go to the moon. So they just don't talk about it anymore. You hear them talking about uh, going to the moon? No. You see how there's so much cheating and lying in society, and why is it? Because the so-called moon or uh, so-called scientists, they have to uh, bluff the people so that they can maintain their position of making money. But ultimately, they have failed. They have not gone to the moon. They were. I remember they were saying when I was many years ago. They were saying we'll have regular uh, rockets going to the moon, and we'll have uh, you know uh, buildings on the moon, and you can live there. And this that. All nonsense. It never happened. Then they stopped talking about it. If you go back 60 years, you'll see they were talking about going to the moon. And they even said that they did go to the moon. It's a lie. They never went to the moon. How can they go to the moon? The moon is a heavenly planet. It's not, it's not something that you can go to because there's superior living entities on the moon. They're not going to let you land on their uh, uh, on their country, and therefore it never happened. Although they spent so much money and made so much talk about it, you don't hear about it anymore. You hear about them going to the moon? No. You know how much uh, uh, propaganda they made that they went to the moon? And they even have these people that said they were astronauts who went to the moon. That was another lie. That was another lie. They never went to the moon. If they went to the moon, why are they not going now? Yeah. Oh, Bali Maharaj, Indrasena, now you may go to the planet Sutala, which is desired even by the demigods. Live there peacefully, surrounded by your friends and relatives. All good fortune unto you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Bali Maharaja was transferred from the heavenly planet to the planet Sutala, which is hundreds of times better than heaven, as indicated by the words Swar Gibi Parthyam, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead deprives his devotee of material opulences. This does not mean that the Lord puts him into poverty. Rather, the Lord promotes him to a higher position. The Supreme Personality of Godhead did not ask Bali Maharaj to separate from his family. Instead, the Lord allowed him to stay with his family members. Jati Bihi Parivarita. Text 34. On the planet Sutala, not even the predominating deities of other planets, what to speak of ordinary people, will be able to conquer you. As far as the demons are concerned, if they transgress your rule, my disc will kill them. Or Krishna is giving them severe uh, test. O great hero, I shall always be with you and give you protection in all respects, along with your associates and paraphernalia. Therefore, you will always be able to see me. Wow, that's wonderful. Text 36. Because there you will see my supreme prowess. Your materialistic ideas and anxieties that have arisen from your association with the demons and Danavas will immediately be vanquished. Purport. The Lord assured Bali Maharaj of all protection. And finally, the Lord assured him of protection from the effects of bad association with the demons. Bali Maharaj certainly became an exalted devotee, but he was somewhat anxious about his association with was not purely devotion. But he was somewhat anxious because his association was not purely devotion. The Supreme Personality of God therefore assured him that his demoniac mentality would be annihilated. In other words, by the association of devotees, the demoniac mentality is vanquished. Satam prasangam mamavirya samvido bhavanti shritkarna rasayana kata. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.25. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure devotee. That is a very important statement. When a demon associates with devotees, engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demon gradually becomes a pure devotee. Haribol, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 22nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Bali Maharaj surrenders his life. Yeah, some people think, oh, surrender, oh, I'm not going to surrender. But we all have to surrender once in life to be able to get the mercy of the Lord. We can't stay puffed up and think that we are God's uh, God's mercy. God's mercy is when we surrender to Him. Okay, so let's end of that. Chapter 23. Are there any questions about anything that we read already? Any questions or comments? You see, this last verse, 36, is very important. It says, because there you will see my supreme prowess. Krishna is speaking. Your materialistic ideas and anxieties that have arisen from your association with the demons and Dhanavas will immediately be vanquished. And the purport, it says, the Lord assured Bali Maharaj of all protection. And finally, the Lord assured him of protection from the effects of bad association with the demons. Bali Maharaj certainly became an exalted devotee, but he was somewhat anxious because his association was not purely devotional. The Supreme Personality of Godhead therefore assured him that his demoniac mentality would be annihilated. In other words, by the association of devotees, the demoniac mentality is vanquished. Satam prasangam mamavirya samido bhavanti hitkana rasayana kata. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure devotee. Well, that is a wonderful statement, and we should believe this. That is, by associating with genuine devotees, even if we're a demon, we can become purified. So, the association of pure devotees is very important. And no one will be, let's say, will be bereft of the mercy of genuine devotees if they remain, let's say, humble and meek. They will become pure devotees also. In other words, by the association of devotees, the demoniac mentality is vanquished. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure devotee. All right. That is such a wonderful statement. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure devotee. Hare Krishna.
This statement gives a lot of hope, Maharaj.
Yeah, definitely. That is wonderful. We're very fortunate to be able to read this and understand what is the glorifying, let's say, ability of by surrendering to the Lord. Even though someone is a demon, If we surrender to the Lord and engage in devotional service in the association of devotees, we can also become a devotee. When a demon associates with devotees, engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure
Pure
devotee. There it is. Haribol. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada.
Wow.
Thank you very much for coming and helping us to become Krishna conscious and teaching us about how to change our life from being demoniac to becoming devotees. Sometimes people think, oh, I can never become a devotee. It's not possible. No, very possible. If we surrender to the right peer person and associate with genuine devotees. Okay, so now we go to chapter 23. The demigods regained the heavenly planets. Yes. Oh,
So,
yeah.
so Maharaj, we should not. Another meaning that I can understand is we should not reject anyone, even though that person is in lower stage in their behavior. Still, that person can become a pure devotee. We should not reject anyone.
Yeah, definitely. Because we have all originally come from the spiritual world. That means that we have the right to go back to the spiritual world. If we never were in the spiritual world, there'd be no question of going back to the spiritual world. But so we can become purified by devotional service. Therefore, it says here, because there you will see my supreme prowess, your materialistic ideas and anxieties that have arisen from your association with the demons and Danavas will immediately be vanquished. The Lord assured Bali Maharaj of all protection. And finally, the Lord assured him of protection from the effects of bad association with the demons. Bali Maharaja certainly became an exalted devotee. So Bali Maharaj was born in the association of demons. Right? But the Lord certainly uh, assured Bali Maharaj of protection from the effects of bad association with the demons. Bali Maharaj certainly became an exalted devotee, but he was somewhat anxious because his association was not purely devotional. The Supreme Personality of Godhead therefore assured him that his demoniac mentality would be annihilated. In other words, by the association of devotees, the demoniac mentality is vanquished. Satam prasangam mamaviryam samido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kata. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demon gradually becomes a pure devotee, glorifying Krishna. All glories to the Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnava Acharyas. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demon gradually becomes a pure devotee. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 22nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Bali Maharaja Surrenders His Life. So there's hope for everyone.
Right.
Even if you're born in a family of demons, there's always hope.
Right.
And this proves it. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. We should have a celebration.
Right.
because of hearing such wonderful things today. We should have a celebration that there is always mercy available if we are willing to surrender to Krishna. Krishna is not a mean person, very, very kind. So we should not be afraid, even if situation becomes difficult. It's simply a test. And if we pass the test because we have complete faith in Krishna, we go back to Godhead. So we should never doubt Krishna. Krishna may test us, but we shouldn't doubt Krishna at all. Yeah.
How to get a complete faith when we are going through the test, Maharaj?
You have to believe the statements that are being said here. When it says Kuntiya Pratijani Nami Bhakta Panasati, declare it boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee will never perish. You have to believe that statement. It's a statement by the Lord. Basically, he's saying, look, just believe what my promise that I will protect you. So demons will try to make you doubt that statement. But real devotees, they don't doubt that statement. They believe in it full-heartedly. And that's what keeps them on the track of being Krishna conscious. So just that one statement, Konteya Pratijanihi Nami Bhakta Pranasati. Declare it boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee will never perishes. It's as simple as that. It's not complicated. We might be tested, but we should not doubt Krishna's statement. That's Krishna's statement. It's not my statement. It's Krishna's statement. Konteya Pratijanihi Nami Bhakta Pranasati. Declared boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee never perishes. We should hold on to that statement. And every situation, when there's some doubt, we should remember that statement. That Krishna says, listen, I'm going to always protect you, so don't break your determination to follow my instructions. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
You want to look up that statement? Konteya Pratijani Nami Bhakta Pranasati.
Yes, Maharaj.
We should put it on the wall here. Konteya Pratijani Nami Bhakta Pranasati.
Translation, Maharaj. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes.
Here it is. And send me that statement where it is.
Yeah, 931, Maharaj. Bhagavad Gita 931.
9:30. Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, send that to me.
Yes.
See, that is a statement. I've been talking about it for a long time. That is very important that we understand. If we understand that, then we're not going to get fooled or we're not going to fall down. Even if we fall down, we're going to stand up again because this statement is the truth. Krishna is always a friendly, loving personality. No matter what happens to us, if we surrender to Krishna, he will always help us. So we have to have that faith. Kunteya Pratijani Nami Bhakta Pranasati. declared boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee will never
Never
perish.
perishes.
Right? Is that what it says?
Yes.
So, we shouldn't doubt that statement. That statement is enough to take us back to the spiritual world.
Correct.
We believe it and we practice it. Yes, send it to me. Okay, I think we'll stop right there, unless there are some questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
How do you go on to
Yes, Maharaj, my question is Krishna tests the devotee to make them strong and to be more faithful and follow the devotional service um, with good effort and all are 100%. But at the same time, a demon seems like is not tested. Is that correct statement, Maharaj? Can you please explain?
Well, why do you say the demon is not tested?
Meaning they are not, it seems, I mean, outwardly that they're not tested as much as a devotee. I mean, I'm not wrong. I know that, but I just wanted a little explanation, clarification on that.
Okay, well, there's a statement. Satam prasangan mamavirya samvido bhavanti hritkana rasayanakata. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure devotee. That's what we should focus on. Even the worst person can become the best person by becoming a devotee and following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. And that statement is Bhagavatam 3.25.25. Satam prasangam mamavirya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kata. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure devotee. Haribol. We should have a celebration because we heard this just now. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure devotee. Some people say, oh, no, I was born in a bad family and done so many sinful things. I can never be a devotee. But when a devotee associates with devotees, when a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demon gradually becomes a pure devotee. We should have a celebration today because we heard this, that the demon gradually becomes a devotee if he associates with devotees. Yeah. And this is Satam Prasangan, Mamavirya Samvido, Bhavanti Hitkarna Rasayana Kata, Shrimad Bhagavatam 3.25.25. It's a very important verse that gives hope to everyone that even the worst person can become the best person by associating with genuine devotees. The demoniac mentality is vanquished. There it is. By the association of devotees, the demoniac mentality is vanquished. Yeah, there are some people who say that, they can never become a devotee. It's not possible. They've done so many sinful activities. No, if you're willing to surrender and they be instructed by genuine devotees, you can become also a genuine devotee. Yeah. Okay, so we'll stop at that on this point, which is Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Samido Bhavanti Hridkana Rasayana Kata Srimad Bhagavatam 3.25.25. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure devotee. We should have a celebration today. It's such a wonderful statement. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demon gradually becomes a pure devotee. Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. What a wonderful life of being a devotee. Even demons can become devotees by associating with the devotees. Yeah. Haribol. There's hope for everyone. We should have a celebration today because we heard this. This is like a very, very good knowledge. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demon gradually becomes a pure devotee. Haribol, that happened to all of us. Haribol. We were all, in a sense, demons, but by associating with Prabhupada's disciples, we became devotees. Haribol. I like Krishna consciousness because it's always good news. No bad news, there's always good news. And it says here, when a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demon gradually becomes a pure devotee. Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.25.25. That's one of my most one of my most favorite statements in the Srimad Bhagavatam. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demon gradually becomes a pure devotee. Haribol. Okay, my dear devotees, we'll stop with that because it's such a wonderful statement. We should have a festival today and glorify this statement. When a demon associates with devotees engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gradually becomes a pure devotee. Well, that gives us the validation that if we are simply engaged in Krishna consciousness, we can help so many people to become devotees. So many people. Haribol, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And we should have a celebration today.
Yes, Maharaj.
Of hearing such auspicious things.